All right, welcome into Before Florida, extension of 5 on the Floor here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Thanks to our sponsors, Biscayne Bay Brewing. You can find them at the kiosks here at the 100 level and at the 300 level. Biscayne Bay Brew, the official beer of the Miami Marlins, also of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Get the Biscayne Bay, get the IPA, the Tropical Bay IPA, I'm sorry. Also, you can get the Marlins Lager and all of their other great beers, the Regatta Double IPA, Pastime Pilsner, and more. You can get these beers all over South Florida at various Whole Foods, Publix, Winn-Dixie. Also at Quarterdeck, one of our partners, and many other restaurants. We're having a watch party at Quarterdeck in Davie again, December 15th against Philadelphia. It's on a Wednesday night, so make sure you mark your calendars for that. And also the Biscayne Bay Brew House, I can tell you, because I almost got a chance to stop by the other day, it is almost open. We're going to start doing some events there here over the next month, likely starting in early January. It's right down the street from the arena, so check out Biscayne Bay Brew, also at the kiosks here at the 100 and 300 levels. Also, our friend Mark Brown is going to be in the building tonight. He's going to come say hello to Alejandro and I. Go to markbrownpa.com. If you need an estate plan, if you need your title taken care of, your closing, any of that kind of stuff, he's got a title company right there in-house. He can handle all kinds of legal matters for your probate and more. 954-566-5678. And, of course, a big Miami sports fan who, like I said, will be here tonight. So make sure you check out Mark and all the great work that he and his firm do. It's a small firm based in North Lauderdale. It's the kind of firm that you want to work with on important matters like that. All right, let's get to it. We got a lot of news tonight. Obviously, there's some University of Miami news. I do want to mention before we get to the Heat, big show tonight for our Six Rings Canes guys here on the YouTube channel. So in addition to catching our Twitter spaces at halftime, see, Sean, I mentioned it. Also, you want to make sure that you check out Six Rings Canes at 9 p.m. 9 p.m. They're going from 9 to 10:30 tonight. They've got 8 guests tonight from all over the spectrum to talk about the Mario Cristobal hire and the Manny Diaz firing. So it's a big show tonight, 9 p.m. to 10:30. And, of course, post-up will likely be on at around 10. So you can toggle back and forth. You can catch one a little bit later.
Yes.
spent money. Look at that. But we have some Heat news tonight. So before we get to who's in, who's out, I do want to mention this because we just broke this one. Greg Sylvander first reporting, and I confirmed it within about 15 seconds, that the Heat are hopeful that Markieff Morris can play as early as Wednesday against Milwaukee. So he's not playing tonight, but they are hopeful that he's going to return, and we'll talk about what that means. But at least they get another body back. He's now missed, I guess, 15 games at this stage that he's missed since the confrontation with Jokic. So he's supposed to be back on Wednesday. But I will get to the other news today, which we also broke about 24 hours ago, but it looks like it's actually happening. Brady Hawk, who's in, who's out?
Yeah, speaking of extra bodies getting thrown in, Jimmy Butler is warming up with the intention to play. As you just said, you reported yesterday that he was probably going to return in this game. So obviously that's pretty big. The other side of things, Memphis, the main one, they're without Ja Morant. But either way, this is a pretty good basketball team. They've literally won 4 in a row without Ja Morant. So it seems like this is not like one of those type of games that you're easily going to win. But obviously Jimmy Butler being back changes things.
All right. Now, we did a podcast last night. Greg and I did with Alex and with Brady. We talked about what Jimmy Butler would bring tonight, how he settles things down. I think we're all anticipating. I just saw Hero out on the court, anticipating that Tyler goes back to the bench tonight and that Jimmy gets the start. So that should improve the bench, if nothing else. It also should improve the starting lineup. But because Brady and I covered this already along with Greg, I'll let Jonathan jump in here next. What is – I mean, I guess some of it's obvious, but give us something that's not so obvious. What does Jimmy bring tonight?
I mean, you know, with Hero, the way he scores, he gets he makes hard shots, right? With Jimmy Butler, he gets tough buckets. So he's able to get it down low, get it close to the rim, and just get shots that are high percentage looks that are either going to get him to the free throw line or get him just a really nice looking percentage shot. So I think having that ability to come in and slow the game down, getting to the free throw line, we're playing a really athletic Memphis team that I think is number 2 in fast breaks. So we're going to want to make sure we slow the game down. I think really tonight, getting to the free throw line is going to be super important for us. And obviously the defensive capabilities of him, we're going to be able to do a lot more different things now, right? We're going to be able to have him maybe at the top, have the zone played, have him playing the free safety in the back, or if we want to do a man and blitz how we were doing the other night, we can do that as well. We have a lot more options of what we can do tonight. So Jimmy Butler just frees up things on both ends of the court. I mean, they talk about him being like a running back. That's exactly what he is, and is a free safety on the other end. So it's just awesome to have him back. It's just like a release valve on both ends.
Yeah, and they're going to play a lot of drops still with Dedmon. They'll still play obviously some zone, but they do have the option of playing more man-to-man when Jimmy's out there, which I think should help. I'll go to Ricky on this, and then we'll pivot back to Greg, and we'll get into the Morris news. So, I mean, Memphis, one of those teams in the West, right, that, they're not a top 4, top 5 team, but they give you trouble on any given night. They're doing it without Ja right now, and they're deep. Desmond Bane, I mean, they've got a lot of good players who can hurt Miami tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this Memphis team, not only do they have good D and are deep, they scored 150 points about a week ago. 150 points. This Heat team cannot afford to sleep on this Memphis Grizzlies team. They're still a scrappy team. They're not quite the grindhouse, of a few years back, but they're not a team that you can just expect to walk in and think, oh yeah, easy home win or easy road win, regardless of where you play them. So I think at this point, Miami just needs to make sure they understand that the players they have are theoretically better than the players that the Grizzlies have. As simple as it may sound, go out there without echoing too much of what Ramlakan just said, and go out there and just win this game tonight. There's really no excuse, even though Bam is out and Kyle is who he is at this stage in his career. Miami has enough, and I'm sure that Eric Spoelstra will agree with me on that.
So,
and
Greg,
so will I.
And so I know you will, but here's the thing about it. We talk about the absence of Bam, but it felt cataclysmic in part because you didn't have Jimmy, you were without depth with Morris, and you've got all of these dead roster spots as it is. Now, I do feel like there is a little bit of a sigh of relief here. Again, Jimmy coming back, you're going to get Morris back, which pads your front court rotation, so you're not reliant on Omer. Okay, I heard Ricky talking before the show, and I agree with him. Heat fans shouldn't look at Markieff Morris as like the end-all, be-all, but he's a competent NBA player. Like, they need more of those. They have some roster spots that we don't really – I mean, this means KZ Okpala is likely not going to play once Morris comes back. And right now, with the stage that KZ is at, I hate to say that's a good thing. But Greg, it does feel like things are starting to improve a little bit. And I feel like that may lead to a good performance tonight.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think the Jimmy steadying presence is huge. And when you talk about Markieff getting back, when you have a finite level of functional roster spots, each roster spot contributes more to the percent to total. So, you just got to take it as it is. Even though Markieff Morris is no world beater, just to get a functional basketball player in that mix in the front court, you need that right now. As far as tonight's matchup, it's one that I think we all expect Miami to win, right? But I think that this is a tough team to play against. I was looking at some of the numbers. They're averaging the second most second chance points per game, 16.7. And they've grabbed at least 10 offensive rebounds in 9 straight games. Yep. So, those are stats that scare me as a Heat fan, considering the effort level we've seen recently. So I hope that Jimmy does rejuvenate them, not only just what he does scoring wise, but just energy overall. I hope that this team looks rejuvenated because Memphis is going to hustle for those boards.
I want to emphasize one thing. They beat an NBA team by 70 a week ago. I just want to repeat that for anybody that thinks this Grizzlies team isn't special.
They're kind of an NBA team. They didn't have Shea, but
I got to do it.
I know, I understand it. Brady, Duncan Robinson. Again, I feel Heat fans relaxed a little bit because he had a really strong game and then he had a pretty strong game, but he hasn't had that game at home yet. I just feel like the first shot tonight for Duncan Robinson matters, in terms of the way the crowd reacts, in terms of the way that he functions the rest of the night.
Yeah, I feel like the first shot matters in any game Duncan Robinson plays, ever. It just feels like his mentality is always, once he sees the ball go in early, that everything shifts. And I think we're talking about a guy like Jimmy Butler returning. PJ Tucker picked up a lot of the stuff that Bam did. Even when Bam played, PJ was running a lot of handoffs for him, but Jimmy was one of the most usage guys of giving Duncan handoffs and getting him involved. He's one of those guys that really looks out for him on the floor. He may throw some jabs in post game, but he really does look out for him in that way that I think you're going to see maybe some more 3-point attempts, even with the attempts going up for Jimmy. So it is going to be interesting. I think you can tell that things change when Duncan Robinson's playing well, not just in 3, but in that one game, he was getting to the rim a lot. It's not that Duncan Robinson did not work on anything in the offseason. He's did not develop the inside game at all. Like he did, it's just you cannot use it if the three's not falling, because the whole point of it is when defenders fly out, you can get to it. So that's gonna be big, like it always will, because no Bam Adebayo, you're down a guy, Markieff, you're down. You need all your top players, starters to play well. And I do want to make one more point to the rebounding thing of Memphis being number one rebounding. I think another interesting thing that Tyler said post game the other night when he talked about the zone, where he talked about it's kind of harder to rebound in the zone because it's not just straight up you grabbing a body and just going. I wonder if they play less zone in a game like this when you're playing a Memphis team that's so good at rebounding. And obviously Jimmy returning means you could probably go that route as well.
Sean Rochester, who, by the way, won our ASX contest the other night, saying it's too humid in Miami for Duncan's shot to go in. Rob Lacan, let's go to you on this. Again, Lowry, Robinson, they play really well. They win in Indiana. They both play. Robinson was okay. I thought Lowry was bad the other night. They get hammered. Again, shouldn't we expect more consistency from Kyle Lowry? Oh, I think you're mute. You're mute.
Yes.
I mean, right. Absolutely. You paid him to be a consistently good point guard, right? You're paying him that money. And I mean, right now, if you're looking at it, Lonzo Ball might have been a better option for the price tag if you think about what you could have gotten for what it is. But, with what Kyle Lowry brings to the table, he needs to be a little more consistent. He needs to spread around his game a little bit more. He's too focused on doing one thing at a time. He needs to be kind of that Swiss Army knife point guard who's able to score and assist at the same time. Like he's just trying to do one or the other. So right now, I think we're going to need to see a little more from him. With Jimmy being back, I can see him feeding Jimmy down in his position a lot. So maybe see him get a couple of assists for feeding the ball down low. But he's going to need to do a lot more on the scoring end as well. So hopefully we see him pick that up. I mean, with Jimmy back, the pressure will be a little less from him. So maybe that helps too.
Well, the other thing about it is this. If they had signed Lonzo Ball, they might have been willing to trade Lonzo Ball, perhaps in a package for Dame Lillard, where there's no chance that they're actually going to be willing to trade Jimmy's friend in a package for Dame Lillard. So that another, I not arguing.
Why would Portland want a 36-year-old?
No,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah,
because they get Tyler Hero with
they get
him.
Tyler Hero. It's contract filler. That's basically what it is. But if it was Hero and Ball, if it's Hero and Ball, that's a different conversation. It's a ready-made backcourt that you would be getting. So again, we're just throwing that out there. We're not saying they're going after Dame, but the Dame thing is starting to happen, which we talked about this offseason. Eventually, it was going to happen. It looks like it's starting to happen. It's probably not going to be Miami. But all right, let's go to the picks tonight. I feel like everybody feels like Miami should win this game, but there's trepidation, right? Like Dylan Brooks has had games against them. Desmond Bane's really good. I wanted the Heat to draft Desmond Bane, actually, and he's really good. And Jaren Jackson Jr. is starting to get healthier, so he could create some problems for them. We talk about the rebounding. I'll start here with you, Brady. They win tonight?
My bad. Yeah, I think they do get this one. I think the main thing is that we look at these games like first quarters. If you look at 3-point shooting, like it feels like every time you leave the first quarter, you're tweeting 1 for 9 from 3, 1 for 12 from 3. I think this is the game where they actually shoot well from 3 out the gates. And I think the main reason was these last few games, it's been a lot of perimeter play, like where everything is just DHO and pick and roll because they have nobody to work the inside. They don't have Bam or Jimmy getting the mid-post touches or getting to the rim. This is a game where they're going to probably spam that early on, and I think you're going to see a lot of kickouts. You're going to see a lot of those good looks from 3, and I think they come out early, and you just have to tame some of these role guys. I think Miami wins like in a close one down the stretch.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I'm taking the Heat as well. To your point, since Ja Morant went down, Memphis has 5 players averaging in double figures, and in those last 2 weeks, Desmond Bane is shooting over 50% from deep on about 6 attempts. So he's dangerous from down there. There's a couple of guys, like you said, Jaren Jackson Jr., that we have to watch out for. This isn't a game the Heat can afford to be lazy. And if they're lazy to the ball, if they're lazy to, on the fast break, if they're lazy in transition, we're going to lose this game, right? So I think with this one, Jimmy's going to have to set the tempo, right? Make sure that we're getting every single rebound, finishing possession with rebounds. And I think that's going to be the key for tonight. If they out-rebound us, we lose this game. I think if we win on the boards, we get it done.
Ricky?
Yeah, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is the name that's being said a lot in this pregame show, and for good reason. The guy has top 5 big man in the league potential. I just don't think that's ever going to happen because he doesn't. He appears to not have the will to do that on a consistent basis, not just across games, but across whole quarters. I think that's been his problem thus far in his career. I think Miami should pull this thing out tonight. I think they will. It's going to be tough because you're dealing with a Heat team that's just rounding or trying to round back into a form versus a team that's starting to develop a little bit of a rhythm in Ja Morant's absence. It's going to be a tough game tonight, but I think Miami pulls out a close one.
Greg, and give me your prize pick too.
Yeah, so Memphis is essentially like a 6 seed in the East by record. So like that we have to go into it with that mentality. Like this is a team you'd be fighting with for playoff positioning. But Miami's 2 biggest losses this season have came in their last 3 games. To me, that Spo probably really got down to defense with them with the 124 points that were surrendered to Milwaukee. I'm expecting Miami to absolutely bounce back. And the prize pick of the night, I would say Dwayne Dedman's overall fantasy scores 25.5. I would go over there. And here's another one. Kyle Lowry is at 5 rebounds. Take under there. With Jimmy back, I'm expecting more of the rebound share to go there. So take under on Kyle's rebounds.
And use the code 5 there. I do like the Heat tonight. And the reason I like the Heat tonight is I think Jimmy comes out of this first quarter flying. Jimmy has a history. We talked about it the last time. He typically misses too much time for Heat fans' liking, but when he comes back that first game, I meant to go through the stats on this, but I'm just telling you from eye test. We talked about it the last time. He has great games coming out of injury breaks. Okay, he just always does, and he's more aggressive. It's like he's pent up. I expect an 11 to 12 first quarter, 11 to 12 point first quarter from him tonight. I think he scores in the high 20s tonight. I would go over with him on prize picks, and I think he carries them tonight. Okay, he saw those games that happened. 2 of the last 3, as Greg mentioned, without him. It's time now. Okay, he's got to turn this thing up. And I also heard he probably could have played Saturday, so there may be some frustration that he actually didn't. And the workout I heard yesterday went really well for him, so he's fine. Okay, so I'm anticipating a strong Jimmy performance and a Heat win tonight. Wednesday is another conversation, okay, particularly because I'm expecting Giannis to be back. But tonight, I do think the Heat win. All right, use prize picks code 5 to get started. Thanks, Alejandro Villegas, for producing. Also, you're going to see good photos out of here tonight because he's got the good camera and he knows how to use it, unlike what I do with this. Unlike what I do with this freaking phone that fell down here twice during the stream. So Alejandro's with me tonight.
Teach him how to crop a photo, Alejandro.
Yes, Lord, please, God.
He doesn't have enough time for that. Check out again. Post Up 5R after the game, Pace and Space at halftime, but also Arcane Show 9 p.m. Make sure you subscribe so you get the notifications.
I'll be watching.
He'll be watching that instead of this. Have a good night.
Oh.
Any area in particular that surprised the most, just how the game turned out tonight?
Well, the final score.
Yeah.
The tenor of the game, that definitely surprised me going into this, but Milwaukee played a great game. It felt like we were, just trying to catch up and on our heels, most of the game, and that's a credit to their force that they brought to the game. All those 50-50s, offensive rebounds, the transition easy points. That really probably was the deciding factor, and just the feel for the game, and they dominated those areas.
Inside the paint, I think it was 48-26, and then 26-11 second chance points. So I think they shut you guys out in the second half, and second chance points. And that's happening. Just how tough is it to try to find a way to come back and try to get on top?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously really challenging, and they took it to us in the paint, and we just could not grab a hold of that.
Max Strus of 25 points, seeing what he was able to do, what he was when he was on the floor tonight.
I mean, there was just very few pockets where it felt like guys played well. Caleb, I thought brought a great energy to the game. I don't even know how many points he had. Just he was mostly himself, out there. Max did some good things, knocked down some shots. I don't think anybody's really thinking about, individually he played well because, as a team, we did not bring our best game, obviously.
Close out back, going back home. We get home. Hopefully Jimmy gets back. Just hopefully trying to potentially get some reinforcements and try to.
Yeah, we'll see. Regardless, the NBA doesn't stop. Our schedule doesn't stop. We have enough, but we have to get back to Miami, get some rest, and get ready for a big game on Monday, which was what we already talked about in the locker room after the game.
All right, Alex, you go via Zoom.
All right, we'll start with Ira Windeman. Go ahead.
Eric, there have been some really rough starts over the last week. The Denver game, Cleveland game tonight, all 60-point first quarters allowed by the opposition. I know you're shorthanded to a degree, but what's allowing other teams just to get out to those huge totals in the first two quarters?
Yeah, I don't know. And I want to make sure that it doesn't turn into a trend.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to dig into that. And, we missed some open looks, but again, I think just off the top of my mind right now, in these three games, we did not defend to our best capabilities when the ball wasn't going in. And the way they were playing and the way we missed some shots at the beginning, they probably would have a lead, but it's not a double-digit lead if we're really defending the way our best version of ourselves. And we have to get to that more consistently. When we're at our best defensively, regardless of what the scheme is, we always give ourselves a chance to win, and we did not do that tonight.
Eric, tonight Tyler became the second youngest Heat player to 2,000 points behind Michael Beasley, the second fastest to 2,000 behind Dwayne. I'm just curious, on games like today, where clearly there's so much more focus on him, do you still appreciate that he just kept shooting, that he kept trying to find a way? Obviously, no one wants a 4-17 night to celebrate a milestone, but is there something to be said that Tyler will always keep pushing himself?
Well, Tyler's a competitor. At his core, he wants to compete against the best. He wants to impact winning. He works at his craft constantly. He's diligent with his film study and his drill work, everything. Is try to get better and to help our team win. I don't even look at him, as a young player necessarily anymore. But just overall, I don't think there were very few of all of us that brought a great game tonight.
Thank you, Eric.
All right, up next we have Cooper Moorhead, Heat.com. Go ahead.
Yes, well, obviously helps when you do have Bam, but even over the last month on the defensive rebounding side of things, there's been some kind of gradual slippage there. I'm just curious, is there any answer to that beyond just a refocus from everybody involved, or is there anything else to it?
I think that's it. I think it has to be a big refocus and recommitment to it. Through the first 5-6 weeks of the season, we were one of the top rebounding teams in the league. And we came into training camp in the preseason, the start of the season, as a major emphasis. It still is an emphasis, but it's getting away from us a little bit, and we have to make sure that we get back and positions the way we're capable of.
All right, Coach, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app. We're on Podbean, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We're also on Dash Radio on their Nothing Net channels every single weeknight at 7 p.m. Also, check out the 5 Reasons YouTube channel for pre- and post-game shows hour before every Heat game. As soon as the Heat game ends, we also do Dolphins, Hurricanes. You're going to want to follow our Hurricanes crew this week, I have a feeling. So check that out. Also, David Dork's Panthers show airs every Monday at 2 o'clock, his show called Odd Man Rush. Also, 5reasonsports.com. Catch the latest from Brady Hawk, who will be with us today, and others on our website without a paywall. Check out the sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We mention this one all the time. Make sure you're playing Prize Picks for your daily fantasy. Go to prizepicks.com. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. We see some of you, like, you'll sign up, but you don't deposit. You actually got to deposit a little bit of money to win. That's the way you get the signing bonus. They will double, they will match whatever it is that you put in. Play the power play, the flex play. Of course, you NFL Monday night game coming up. Also NBA, NHL, and everything else. So go to prizepicks.com. Yes, it is legal in Florida. Can play in Florida. So put that money in using the code 5, FIVE. They'll match it for you and get started. Prizepicks.com. Use the code 5. And now, tonight's episode.
Down the Biscayne. Five on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. So hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing, got it all planned. Y'all seen the block, stop in one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's tonight's floor plan. I've got Greg Sylvander. You can follow him at Greg Sylvander. I've got Alex Toledo. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket. And we've got Brady Hawk with us for the entire episode, and his appearances here on 5 on the Floor are sponsored by our friend Eric Rubenstein. He's the attorney that you want to go to if you've got any kind of car accident, medical malpractice issue, anything related to personal injury law. He is the man. You can find him at 954-829-ERIC, E-R-I-C, not K, not like Spolstra, E-R-I-C, 954-829-ERIC, or on Instagram at I Want to Be Your Lawyer. He's a South Florida guy. He's an FSU undergrad. Don't hold that against him. Graduated magna cum laude from St. Thomas University. He grew up in a personal injury family. He knows exactly how this thing works. He specializes, again, in personal injury law, including car accidents, slip and falls, medical malpractice, and more. Reach out to him, a huge Heat fan, 954-829-ERIC. That's 954-829-ERIC, or on Instagram at I Want to Be Your Lawyer. So now we bring in Brady. And what we're going to talk about tonight is Jimmy Butler. And I got a little bit of news, not that this is a big surprise. We've kind of been telegraphing this for a couple of days, that Jimmy Butler was going to be back soon. This is not a Bam Adebayo situation. His tailbone obviously was bothering him. It kept him out before the road trip. It kept him out of the road trip, but he was working out at home. They showed some video of that yesterday. I think Will and some others tweeted that out about what was going on with him. I do know for sure that he went through a workout Sunday morning. It went well. He passed it with flying colors. And so he essentially has been cleared to play on Monday night. Could there be a setback? Of course, but it's our assumption he is going to play. And so what we're going to talk about here is how that changes things, because it was hard to evaluate the team without Bam Adebayo when they also don't have Jimmy Butler. There's just very limited in what they can do. They were able to steal one of the 2 games on the road trip by winning in Indiana, got blown out against a Milwaukee team without Giannis. I don't think that was particularly surprising, but now they come back with Jimmy. So actually, since Brady, so you're the guest here tonight, I'll ask you, first thing, do we anticipate that Jimmy's return means Tyler Hero goes back to the bench?
Yeah, definitely. Like, it feels like that he is the Jimmy Butler placeholder at this point. Like, I don't see a way they would be able to move any things around. Like, it feels Dwayne Dedmon has given you enough that you're comfortable with him in that spot. Like, he's given you great consistency on both sides of the floor. It's just more about backing up that big, but it does feel like Tyler Hero is going to move down to the bench, which once again, it feels like they need that. Like, obviously Max Strus has given them something, Gabe Vincent many nights, Caleb Martin others, but they need that stage. I think looking at where you move forward with Jimmy is Duncan and Kyle playing well. That one game kind of masked a lot of the things that are wrong without Jimmy Butler. Like, they need somebody that can attack the rim. They need somebody that can operate from the mid-range, because obviously without Bam, that's a big thing. Without Jimmy, it's an even bigger thing. Like, have Kyle setting you up on the perimeter and doing different things, but it just feels like Jimmy in that mid post that we talk about so much can kind of just organize the offense and score from those different ways. And as we piggyback, just looking forward, as you guys jump in here, it just feels like an interesting thing. Look back, games we've been with Jimmy Butler. The Heat are 29th in defensive rating, and it just feels like obviously a lot of that's Bam, because they're going to have to deal with that over this long stretch. But it's also because of Jimmy, just because he is a big reason of what they do. Like, they've had to move to much more zone because of the guys they have a lot more drop. I feel like you're going to see more switching. But Jimmy's a big reason for the success on the defensive end. And 29th in defensive rating over this last 4 games is just not the so it just feels like big picture, Jimmy coming back is going to change a lot. And like I said before, they need this next 2 weeks where there's some iffy games in there before it's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, to get through this last stretch, this back-to-back at Indy, at Milwaukee, and split it without Bam and Jimmy, like, to me, that was a win. Ultimately, like, when you get through that stretch, there's a stat that an advanced statistic that the NBA put out when Hassan Whiteside started popping up at the top of PER. Then we realized that was not going to be a valid statistic to quantify the very best players in the league. And the new statistic is now player impact estimate, PI. And obviously, I try to stay away from advanced metrics because that's what I do by day. So I try to stay away from it when we do this podcast. But Jimmy Butler is third in that statistic behind only Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo. So, let's not underrate his impact. Him being back, just ultimately, like, we could throw everything else out. His ability to just mismatch hunt is going to be gigantic for this offense. They don't have anybody that could do that these last few games. It was just they were at the mercy of running whatever sets. And then if guys got hot, then they played well. And if they didn't get hot, they lost. So getting Jimmy back, mismatch hunting, as I mentioned, I think it's going to be a big thing for him. And Jimmy kind of had a weird November, if we're honest. I think his net rating, he was like a negative minus 4.5 net rating in November in 11 games. So like, I expect him to really take the offense by the horns, and he's going to attempt probably the most field goals game over game that we've seen since Jimmy arrived in Miami.
So the Jimmy thing, it's obvious because, he's the best player on the team. And that's something that everybody can notice watching the game. Everybody can see his impact, but it's also like we talk about, he does so many things that are important to them outside of what he's already known for. Like he's obviously got the elite defense, and their defensive rating has been second worst in the league in the past 4 games, right? He's a good rebounder for his size, and their rebounding, another thing that was at the top of the league before all these injuries, has taken a dive as well. Right. You look at their field percentage of the team, rating as a team, plus minus, everything has taken just a ginormous dive in these past few games. So it's like everything is backing up just how impactful Jimmy is on the floor. And I don't know, like this team, like Brady said, they badly need somebody who can get to the rim. And I just think, like, without Jimmy, you're at the mercy of, do you have enough threes falling? Because it really feels like there's a lot of factors to a game, right? Like I said, they're not playing great defense. They're not rebounding well. But at the end of the day, that game that they won, it's because you had all these guys who haven't been hitting their shots. Like what Brady said earlier, like it really masked a lot of those issues. So I just think they really need Jimmy back as somebody to be their stabilizer, to take pressure off of Lowry and Hero to really be at the top of their scoring game. And just so they can actually get back to winning some games, because I just don't really think they have enough. I don't know. I don't think Spo would agree, but they just don't have enough without Jimmy.
Yeah, and I think what we do sometimes is underrate his impact. Because, look, the only way that teams win without elite two-way players is to get crazy shooting metrics from their other guys. Like you saw it last night with Milwaukee. Now, the Heat did not come in with the proper temperament to that game, okay? And they deserved what they got. They deserved to get blown off the floor. But that's the winning without Giannis, is, you get crazy shooting numbers from Connaughton and others, and, again, and then you get a lot of offensive rebounds. Like that kind of stuff with the extra possessions and the shots will tip it. But typically, when you lose the top 15 player, and I don't think there's anybody who could argue Jimmy's not that, okay? We can have a conversation about top 10 or whether he belonged in the MVP conversation. You lose the top 15 player, the only way you're going to overcome that is with, borderline outrageous shooting. I mean, that's what does it. I mean, when you don't have LeBron, when you don't have Giannis, when you don't have, they're dealing with it with the Clippers this year, but they've had time to adjust. They've got another guy in Paul George who can do a lot of the same things that Kawhi can do. Most teams, they don't have a guy who can replicate their best player. And in the Heat's case, they've got two guys they can't really replicate, and they're going to be without one for weeks, and the other one has missed time lately. And this was a terrible basketball team without Jimmy Butler last year. Now, we thought that they could be better without him in his minutes this year because they had Lowry, because they did have some additional pieces. But again, without Bam, you simply cannot survive it. I think what I'm curious to see, a couple things. One, does Jimmy, Greg, you seem to think he's going to be extremely aggressive offensively, and you put it down here in the chat that his usage rate is almost 27%, which is the highest of his career, and also his field goal attempts are the highest of his career. Will he really put that direction? Because it's not his inclination to do so, okay, to push it even more, like to take, say, 20 to 22 field goal attempts per game, plus the free throws. And additionally, once Jimmy comes back, we have seen some flashes of aggression from Lowry. Does that now go back to it? Because it can't, and that's the thing. They both have to go.
Yeah, no, the interesting challenge will be seeing them pick their spots and figuring that out and clarify. In 16-17, he averaged 16 and a half field goal attempts. That was his highest of his career. This year, he is his fifth highest at 15.3. What I'm saying is that I think throughout the next stretch while Bam is out, he's going to have to eclipse his highest field goal attempt year, which was 16-17, just to clarify that. But yeah, the usage is there. And I think that in order for, like, we talk a lot about Tyler is ready for more, but there's certain scenarios where if you ask him to direct traffic in an offense and make others better, that's not where he's at yet. Like the Tyler was flourishing because he knew exactly what he needed to do. Kyle was flourishing early in the season, and this offense was flourishing because everyone they were lockstep in knowing their roles. I think that Jimmy leaning into his offensive acumen is going to allow the other guys to get back to do and comfortable in their roles. Obviously, Kyle, Tyler are all going to score more. Duncan's percentages need to get fixed, but ultimately I think Jimmy allows those guys to get to their games, and Jimmy can be the guy who can be a little bit more flexible and still perform at a high level where those other guys may not be capable of doing that at this stage.
All right, when we come back from the break, I want to get into not just the starting lineup, which I think we all sort of assume will be Edmond, Tucker, Butler, Robinson, and Lowry, with Hero kind of headlining the bench that now has that kind of the 3-2-way combination, right? Which I know that the Strus and Vincent are no longer two ways, but Strus, Vincent, and Martin, as we talked about, I don't know what the numbers look like after the last game, although Max made up a lot at the end of the game for a lot of people, but that has been their best defensive trio. Well, not Strus so much, but Martin and Vincent with Dedmon has been their best defensive trio this season. Really, Martin and Vincent with whoever you put them out with has been their best defensive group. And now you're going to put Hero back in that group. So we'll talk rotational, but I also, when we come back, I want to get into the closing lineup, because I do think we may see something a little bit different from Eric Spoelstra if they get in a close game, which they have not been in a hell of a lot of them lately. Obviously the Milwaukee game didn't turn out the way. Before we do, though, I want to tell you about two places that you can go get discounts using the code 5RSN. For all your grooming products, go to manscaped.com. It's manscaped.com. Use the code 5RSN. You will get 20% off everything in your store. It's not just the razors. They'll, of course, look at those, but they've got cologne, they got deodorant, they got plenty of other stuff there. Go to the website, manscaped.com. Use the code 5RSN. That's the number 5RSN to get 20% off. And for your premium CBD, go to therapistpreferred.com. It's therapistpreferred.com. Premium CBD to help you sleep, to help you with recovery. They've got the sports cream, they've got the tincture, they've got the gummies, all that great stuff. So go check it out at therapistpreferred.com. You get 25% off with the code 5RSN. And at manscaped.com, you get 20% off with the code 5RSN. All right, let's take a look at the closing lineup now. We know Jimmy's going to be in it. We know Tyler's going to be in it, right? We know Kyle's going to be in it most nights, although Gabe Vincent has made a case for himself the way he's played in fourth quarter lately. So, Brady, I'll go to you on this. Like, do you think we're going to see a set closing lineup without Bam? Is it going to be smaller? Is he going to play Dedmon down the stretch? That feels like something probably is not going to happen as well as Dwayne is playing. How do you see that going?
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's going to be a set closing lineup, but I do think it'll be smaller for sure. Like if even like where Duncan had a big game, he wasn't even closing that one. And it felt like when they were edging back, we were like, why isn't Duncan on the floor? I don't expect him to be closing many of these games. Like you said, I feel like it's going to be Kyle, Tyler, and Jimmy is going to be the locks. I think PJ is pretty much a lock at this stage. And would not be surprised if they go small and put a guy like Caleb on the floor at the 4, because they've done it. It just matters the matchup. If they have a really lengthy matchup and they're losing the rebounding battle, they may go a different. I think they can trust Dedmon in those positions. But it just feels like these guys, like these two ways that you're talking about, they're playing so well defensively. You're talking about the slippage end of games defensively. Like you can use a Caleb Martin or maybe go small to Gabe Vincent at the 2 and feel comfortable with it. Just kind of crazy to say, like, even if Duncan does shoot well, like you'd expect him to be on the floor when you're missing a starter. But I'm not sure that's a lock at this stage. It just feels like they can go in so many different directions. I think the question becomes, with Tyler moving down to the bench, you mentioned the rotation. It just feels like they've not really wanted to go 10 many times. And you have 4 guards who you can basically use with Gabe, Tyler, Max, and Caleb. So I don't really know what they do there. Do they expand the 10? Do they go fully small? I just don't really know what they do there. I don't see one of those guys getting squeezed out just because all 3 of those guys are playing so well. So I think that's going to be an adjustment period. I think teams like Memphis, who kind of use more bodies than the usual team, they can go 10, but it just seems more as they go on to these extra teams. When they play Milwaukee again on Wednesday, what do they kind of do at that stage? And I think that's when you're going to see them kind of try different things, and you're going to see some awkward type of lineups that Spoelstra likes to use in these type of regular season games.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think like there's no reason to have a set closing lineup I mean, without Bam, right? Because with Bam, you already know the guys who are going to be in there, who's not going to be in there, and maybe there's a question mark with Tyler or Duncan, but we already know where that's gone so far. But without Bam, I just think it really depends on who you're playing against. Like we saw that Spo originally was willing to play KZ first in the rotation before Omer, and then again in that Pacers game went to UD before Omer, right? And it was like, okay, we don't know where the trust is with the front court, but I think after seeing a little bit of him, and then we saw him again in this last game, even though it didn't go well for the Heat, I just think Spo is a little bit more willing to play big and go deep from court rotation than he was before. So, like, the Grizzlies are going to start Steven Adams, so maybe that's a team where tomorrow Omer gets a lot of playing time. And then, like, again, they're going to play the Bucks again, right? So, I don't know. Like, I just think they're going to end up staying big. And then in the closing time, it's probably going to end up being that starting lineup with Dedmon. I don't know. I really can't imagine them going so small at the 5 with PJ at the 5, just because the rebounding has been such an issue and they're zoning so much. I don't know. I think they really are viable both ways, though. To me, I don't really feel strongly about it.
I'll give you the closing lineup. Markieff Morris, whenever he's back, they'll put him in next to PJ Tucker and then go with Jimmy, Tyler, and Kyle. But no, I think right now everyone's kind of leaned into the right call here, is that we're going to just take whoever's playing best out of Max, Caleb, or they'll plug maybe Dwayne Dedmon at times if they need size. And this is how I'm looking at this go forward. Like, if they can get to Friday, December 17th, so they got quickly here, Memphis, Milwaukee, Chicago, Cleveland, Philadelphia. That has some challenges amongst it. But then they get to close out the month with Orlando twice, Detroit twice, Indiana, and obviously Washington can be tough. But then San Antonio and Houston, 2 teams that are kind of down and out. I feel like they have a stretch there where they can start to tinker and figure things out and close out the year strong. But it's just this next stretch of games that's tough. So that's why I really expect Jimmy to be aggressive, to just try to take a couple of these and just take them home.
Couple of things here. Number one, going to be interesting to see how the home crowd reacts to Duncan. You know, he did have a game on the road, still have a game at home. So if he misses 2 or 3 early, does that take the life out of them a little bit? Additionally, I think we've hit the stage of the season where all the award talk is gone. I don't, you know, I think there were 4, people on the Heat who are in contention for awards. Bam for Defensive Player of the Year, not going to happen when he's missing several weeks. Tyler Hero, 6th man of the year. He may not end up playing most of his games off the bench this year. Okay. And now there's already this buzz for Montrezl
That one's still
Harrell.
alive. I'm telling you, Ethan.
It's still alive, but I don't have a lot of faith in it. Although if you do want to bet it, you probably could still get it at US.com using code 5, which is what we recommend. But I'm starting to see buzz for other people there. In part, I think because Tyler has been starting more often. So again, he's got to at least play half of his games off the bench. But I think the narrative is going to work against him. Eric Spoelstra for Coach of the Year is going to be very, very difficult for that to happen. And Jimmy Butler for MVP, he's probably missed too much time already. I think that with Jimmy, and again, with the way Curry's playing, with the way the Suns are playing, with the way Durant is playing, it's gonna, again, Jimmy getting in the top 5 of that conversation, which is where I thought he was before the latest injury. I don't know that that's going to happen again this year. I will say to a certain degree, it kind of takes pressure off. I think, we're all past the point of projecting a win total for this team. And I think we've all kind of come to the conclusion, just get through this stretch, right, that Greg's talking about. Get to that soft part of the schedule. Don't give away games against bad teams that you shouldn't give away, the Houstons, the San Antonios, etc. And just put yourself in decent enough seating that to be healthy the end of the year. I know that's sort of anticlimactic, and it's not really what we should say when we're trying to get you to listen to a daily podcast.
Speak for yourself. I'm projecting 50 victories still.
We'll end it there. Thanks to Alex. Thanks to Brady.